Commander Zethkri stared at the holographic display floating above his desk. The blue light cast strange shadows across his scaled face as he watched the footage for the 15th time that day. His three eyes focused on different parts of the scene, trying to understand what he was seeing. The creatures in the recording moved with a coordination that made his skin crawl. They called themselves humans, and they had just discovered faster-than-light travel 3 months ago. The Galactic Council had sent the usual first contact team, expecting to find another primitive species struggling with basic spaceflight. Instead, they found something that made veteran commanders lose sleep. The footage showed a battle on the human homeworld they called Earth. 2 groups of humans fought each other over some territorial dispute. Zethkri had seen thousands of such conflicts across the galaxy. Every species had them. What made this different was how these humans fought. They moved like a single organism. When one human pointed at a building, others immediately knew what he meant. They spread out in patterns that covered every angle of attack. When enemy fire came down, they responded instantly, without panic, without confusion. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was how they never stopped moving forward. Zethkri paused the recording and zoomed in on one human soldier. The creature had been shot twice, blood streaming down its arm. Any rational being would seek cover, call for medical help, or retreat. This human simply wrapped something around the wound and kept fighting. It moved with the same deadly precision, as before, as if pain meant nothing. "Computer replay section 7 Alpha," he commanded. The hologram shifted to show a different part of the battle. Here, a small group of humans had been surrounded by a larger force. Standard military doctrine across the galaxy said they should surrender or die. Instead, they fought harder. They used explosives to bring down buildings, creating new paths of attack. They turned the enemy's advantage into a trap. When the smoke cleared, the surrounded humans had won. Zethkri's communication device buzzed. The symbol indicated a priority message from the council chambers. "Commander, report to the war room immediately. Bring the human files." The war room sat in the center of the council station, its walls lined with tactical displays showing the current status of all known military forces in the galaxy. Today, those displays focused on one small blue planet at the edge of known space. General Thaxmord, a massive creature from the warrior planet Koros, gestured toward the central hologram. "Commander Zethkri, explain what your intelligence division has discovered about these humans." Zethkri activated his portable display, and the human battle footage appeared in the center of the room. The assembled military leaders, representing 12 different species, watched in silence. "The humans have been engaged in constant warfare for most of their recorded history," Zethkri began. "They fight over territory, resources, ideas, and sometimes for reasons that make no sense to us. This footage shows what they call a conventional battle using regular infantry." Ambassador Veltar from the peaceful Zephyrian Republic shifted uncomfortably. "These creatures seem quite violent, but their technology appears limited. Projectile weapons, chemical explosives, nothing that would threaten established galactic powers." "That's what we thought initially," Zethkri continued. "But look closer at their tactics." He highlighted different sections of the battle. "This unit coordinates an attack across a front of 12 kilometers without any visible communication devices. This group executes a tactical retreat that draws the enemy into a prepared ambush. This soldier here makes a decision that saves his entire unit, acting on information that shouldn't have been available to someone of his rank." General Thaxmord leaned forward. His people prided themselves on being the galaxy's finest warriors. "You're saying these humans fight well for primitives. So what?" "Computer, analyze the tactical decisions shown in this footage. Compare them to the tactical manuals of all known galactic military forces." The room fell silent as numbers appeared on the display. The computer had analyzed every decision, every movement, every strategic choice made by the human forces. The results showed tactical thinking that matched or exceeded the best military minds in known space. "This can't be correct," whispered Defense Minister Krixtal from the Advanced Romulan Collective. "These readings suggest military genius at the individual soldier level." There's more, Zethkri said grimly. He called up new files. We interviewed the human diplomatic team about their military structure. They were quite open about it. They said this footage shows their basic infantry using standard tactics. The room erupted in concerned murmurs from a dozen different species. They have something they call special forces, Zethkri continued. When we asked about these units, the humans became different. Their casual attitude changed. They spoke about these special forces with what can only be described as reverence mixed with fear. Ambassador Veltar's normally blue skin had turned pale green. Fear? They fear their own soldiers? Not fear of them, Zethkri clarified. Fear of what they can do. One human officer told us that Special Forces soldiers are not quite human anymore. Another said they could do things that regular people can't understand. General Thaxmord stood up, his massive frame towering over the conference table. Commander, are you telling us that what we just watched, soldiers who fight better than our elite units, these humans consider them basic troops? That's exactly what I'm saying. And according to human military structure, they have millions of these regular soldiers, their special forces number in the thousands. The defense minister pulled up galactic military classifications on his personal device. If their basic troops match our elite capabilities, and their elite troops are significantly better. He stopped, the implications hitting him. Yes, Zethkri confirmed. By every measurement we have, humanity should be classified as a Class 7 military threat. The room fell completely silent. Class 7 was the highest threat level in galactic records. It meant a species capable of conquering known space. Only 3 civilizations in galactic history had ever received that designation, and all 3 had been destroyed by combined galactic forces before they could spread. But those civilizations had been technologically advanced, with weapons that could destroy planets and fleets that numbered in the millions. Humans still used chemical projectiles and metal vehicles. How is this possible? Ambassador Veltar asked weakly. Zethkri brought up the final piece of evidence. It was a recording from the human diplomatic ship. The footage showed human soldiers, in their off-duty hours. They weren't training or preparing for battle. They were simply talking, eating, and resting. Even at rest, they moved with predatory awareness. Their eyes constantly scanned their surroundings. Their conversations included tactical assessments delivered as casual observations. When one soldier accidentally dropped a cup, 3 others moved to defensive positions before realizing it was nothing. They don't turn it off, Zethkri explained. This isn't learned behavior or military conditioning. This is how they naturally think. Every human is a potential warrior, and their actual warriors are... He paused, searching for words. They're something we've never encountered before. General Thaxmord sat down heavily. What do you recommend, Commander? Full diplomatic engagement, immediate trade agreements, technology sharing. Whatever it takes to ensure they see us as allies, not enemies. And if they refuse? Zethkri looked around the room at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. Each species represented millions of years of evolution, advanced technology, and military tradition. Then we pray that their regular forces are as good as they get, and that we never meet their special forces. The Council voted unanimously to classify humanity as a Class 7 military threat and to pursue immediate alliance negotiations. For the first time in galactic history, the classification was based not on technology or numbers, but on the simple, terrifying realization that somewhere in the galaxy there existed a species that treated war as a natural state of being, and humanity had just learned how to travel between stars. Ambassador Sarah Chen stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the main docking bay of Council Station Alpha. Behind her, 12 Marines in dress uniforms followed in perfect formation. She had chosen them carefully for this first official diplomatic mission. Experienced soldiers who could represent humanity's best while maintaining diplomatic protocol. What she didn't know was that every move they made was being recorded and analyzed by galactic intelligence services who believed they were looking at humanity's ultimate warriors. Sergeant Martinez, the squad leader, kept his eyes moving as they walked through the station corridors. The habit was so natural he didn't realize he was doing it. Behind him, the other Marines automatically adjusted their positions to maintain optimal coverage of all approaches. To them, it was basic situational awareness. To the watching aliens, it looked like a precision military operation. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. Chen took her place at the human delegation podium, while her Marine escort formed a defensive perimeter. Again, this was standard protocol. The Marines weren't expecting trouble, but they were ready for it. Council Chairman Vextal, a tall insectoid, being with 4 arms, called the session to order. We welcome the human delegation to this historic first meeting. Ambassador Chen, please introduce your species to the Council. Chen smiled and began her prepared speech about human history, culture, and hopes for peaceful cooperation. She spoke about Earth's diverse nations working together to achieve spaceflight, about humanity's desire to join the galactic community, and about the technological advances they hope to share. The alien representatives listened politely, but their attention kept drifting to the 12 humans standing motionless behind her. Even at parade rest, the Marines radiated a kind of controlled violence that made several species uncomfortable. Representative Krelvox from the Hegemony Collective stood up. His people were known for their military pride and aggressive diplomacy. Ambassador Chen, your words speak of peace, but you bring warriors to a diplomatic meeting. What message should we take from this? Chen turned slightly to glance at her escort. I'm sorry, Representative Krelvox, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. These are just Marines providing standard security. They're hardly our elite forces. The chamber fell silent. Several translators requested clarification of the word just. You consider these warriors ordinary? Asked Chairman Vextal carefully. Well, yes, Chen replied, confused by the attention her escort was receiving. They're good Marines, don't get me wrong, but they're standard infantry, regular soldiers. Sergeant Martinez fought to keep his expression neutral. He could feel the weight of alien attention on his squad. Something about the way these beings looked at them suggested they were being evaluated as threats. He made a subtle hand signal, and his Marines shifted almost imperceptibly into a more defensive formation. The movement was so slight that Chen didn't notice it. Every alien in the chamber did. Representative Krelvox's skin changed to a deeper shade of purple, indicating agitation among his species. These regular soldiers move like our most elite special operations units. Their discipline and coordination are remarkable. Thank you, Chen said, still not understanding the concern. The Corps does train good Marines. Though honestly, Sergeant Martinez here washed out of Special Forces selection a few years back. That's why he's with us instead of doing the really dangerous stuff. The chamber erupted in startled chittering, clicking, and other sounds of alarm from a dozen different species. Chairman Vextal called for order. Ambassador Chen, he said carefully, could you clarify what you mean by washed out? Martinez stepped forward slightly. Permission to speak, ma'am? Chen nodded. I attempted Special Forces assessment and selection 2 years ago, sir. Martinez addressed the chairman directly. I made it through most of the course but didn't meet the psychological profile they were looking for. So I returned to regular infantry duty. And what would have happened if you had met the psychological profile? Asked Defense Coordinator Zethkri, who had joined the session specifically to observe the human military representatives. Martinez shrugged. I would have become a Green Beret, sir. Special Forces. They do the missions that are too difficult or too dangerous for regular units like us. The alien representatives exchanged glances. If these regular soldiers moved with such deadly precision, what were their elite forces like? Representative Krelvox decided to test the humans directly. Perhaps your escort would be willing to demonstrate their regular capabilities? We have training facilities aboard the station. Chen looked uncertain, but Martinez nodded. We'd be happy to participate in joint training exercises, ma'am. Good for diplomatic relations. An hour later, the station's main gymnasium had been converted into an obstacle course. The course was designed for the Galactic Council's own security forces and included challenges that tested strength, speed, coordination, and tactical thinking. The assembled alien representatives watched from an observation deck as the 12 Marines prepared for the course. They had changed from dress uniforms into combat gear, and the transformation was striking. Where before they had been diplomatic escorts, now they moved like predators. Standard rules, announced the course supervisor, a mechanical being called Unit 7742. Teams of 4 will navigate the course, neutralizing targets and securing objectives. Current record is held by the Valorian Elite Guard at 14 minutes 37 seconds. Sergeant Martinez divided his Marines into 3 teams of 4. They studied the course layout for exactly 90 seconds, exchanged brief tactical discussions, then took their positions. Begin, announced Unit 7742. What happened next would be discussed in galactic military academies for decades to come. The Marines moved through the course like a single organism. They flowed around obstacles, provided cover for each other's movements, and neutralized targets with an efficiency that bordered on supernatural. They didn't just complete the course, they redesigned it as they went, finding tactical solutions that the designers hadn't intended. When the first team reached a barrier designed to require climbing equipment, they simply formed a human ladder and lifted each other over. When the second team encountered a puzzle that should have taken several minutes to solve, they bypassed it entirely by creating their own route through adjacent obstacles. The third team finished the course by doing something that made several alien observers physically ill. Faced with a choice between a safe but time-consuming route and a dangerous shortcut, they chose the dangerous path and executed it flawlessly, treating potentially lethal obstacles as minor inconveniences. Time, called Unit 7742. 4 minutes, 12 seconds. New station record. The observation deck was completely silent. Martinez jogged over to the intercom. "How'd we do, sir? Is that a good time for regular infantry?" Chairman Vextal found his voice first. "Sergeant Martinez, how does your performance compare to your special forces?" Martinez thought for a moment. "Well, sir, they'd probably have finished it in under 3 minutes, and they would have found a way to complete it without triggering any of the alarms we set off. We're good, but we're not that good." In the observation deck, Representative Krelvox turned to his aide. "Send a priority message to Hegemony Command. Tell them we need to revise our threat assessment of humanity. Immediately." Defense Coordinator Zethkri was already composing his own report. If humanity's washouts and regular soldiers could dominate a course designed for elite galactic forces, what could their actual elite forces do? Ambassador Chen, meanwhile, was completely unaware that her simple diplomatic mission had just triggered a galaxy-wide military alert. She was focused on the successful cultural exchange and the positive response from the council representatives. "I'm glad this went well," she told Martinez as they prepared to leave the gymnasium. "The council seems very interested in learning more about human capabilities." "Yes, ma'am," Martinez replied, "though I get the feeling they might have some wrong ideas about what we can do." He had no idea how right he was. Across the galaxy, military commanders were frantically trying to calculate what humanity's true military capabilities might be. If these were the humans who had failed to meet elite standards, what were the ones who had succeeded actually capable? If the answer to that question would reshape the balance of power in known space. The contested moon of Zarian 7 had been a problem for the Galactic Council for over 2 decades. Neither the Hegemony Collective nor the Free Trade Alliance could claim it outright, so it had become a permanent training ground where both sides tested their military capabilities in exercises that everyone knew were barely disguised warfare. Today, it would serve a different purpose. High Admiral Krektos of the Hegemony watched the tactical displays in his command ship as human transports approached the moon's surface. 3 weeks had passed since the incident at Council Station Alpha, and military leaders across the galaxy had been debating what humanity's regular soldiers were actually capable of. The Admiral had proposed a simple test, a standard urban warfare simulation on Zarian 7. The humans could bring their best troops and the Hegemony would provide 500 of their elite shock troops, warriors who had never been defeated in galactic combat exercises. What actually arrived were 200 soldiers from something called the 101st Airborne Division. Captain Rodriguez stepped off the transport, and looked around at the artificial city that covered most of Zerion 7. The structures were designed to simulate urban combat across a dozen different architectural styles, representing various galactic civilizations. It was impressive, but not unlike training facilities back on Earth. "All right, people," he announced to his company. "Standard urban operation. Rules of engagement are non-lethal force only. They've got some kind of stun weapons and shield systems set up. Mission is to secure all primary objectives within the exercise time frame." "What's the time frame, sir?" asked First Sergeant Williams. Rodriguez checked his briefing pad. "They've allocated 30 days for a full campaign simulation. Apparently, that's the standard duration for this type of exercise." The soldiers of Able Company, 2nd Battalion, 101st Airborne, spread out across their staging area. They had been told this was a joint training exercise with Allied forces, which was technically true. What they hadn't been told was that every move they made was being monitored by the most advanced military analysis systems in known space. High Admiral Krektos watched the humans set up their command post. "They seem ordinary," he commented to his tactical staff. "Yes, sir," agreed Commander Zexnal. "Intelligence reports suggested these humans were exceptionally dangerous, but they appear to be conducting standard military preparations." Neither of them understood what they were actually seeing. The humans' standard preparations included establishing overlapping fields of fire, creating redundant communication networks, and setting up supply lines with an efficiency that galactic forces typically achieved only after weeks of planning. The exercise began at dawn on day 1. The hegemony's plan was straightforward: use their superior numbers and advanced technology to overwhelm the human positions, then systematically clear the city sector by sector. Their shock troops were equipped with energy weapons, personal shield generators, and armor that could stop most projectile weapons. It should have been a simple victory. Rodriguez received the first contact reports 12 minutes after the exercise began. "Sir, we've got movement on all fronts. Looks like they're trying to surround us." "Expected," Rodriguez replied calmly. "Execute Plan Alpha. Let them think they've got us boxed in." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The humans appeared to retreat in disorder, falling back from their forward positions as hegemony forces advanced. Admiral Krektos smiled as he watched the tactical display. The exercise would be over by noon. Then the trap closed. The retreating humans had led the hegemony forces into carefully prepared kill zones. Buildings that appeared empty suddenly erupted with coordinated fire. Streets that seemed clear became deadly crossfires. The humans had turned the entire urban environment into a weapon. "How are they doing this?" demanded Commander Zexnal as his forces took massive casualties. "Our intelligence said the humans have inferior technology." They did have inferior technology. Their weapons were chemical projectiles instead of energy beams. Their armor was metal and fabric instead of powered exoskeletons. Their communications relied on radio waves instead of quantum entanglement. But they used what they had with a precision that bordered on supernatural. Squad leader Patel crouched behind cover as energy blasts seared the air above her head. "Johnson, you got eyes on that building?" "2 shooters, 3rd floor east corner," came the immediate response. "Martinez, can you get an angle?" "Give me 30 seconds. Patel counted down in her head. At exactly 30 seconds, she popped up and laid down suppressing fire. The alien shooters ducked for cover, and Martinez's shot found its target perfectly. 2 hegemony soldiers went down with non-lethal hits. To the humans, it was basic squad-level tactics. To the aliens watching, it looked like telepathic coordination. By day 3 of the 30-day exercise, Admiral Krektos was requesting reinforcements. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "the humans have secured 40% of the primary objectives. At their current rate of advance." "I know what their current rate of advance means," Krektos snapped. "How are they moving so fast?" The answer was simple. The humans never stopped moving. While galactic forces took time to rest, resupply, and plan their next moves, the human company operated on rotating schedules that kept them active around the clock. They fought, ate, slept, and planned in shifts, maintaining constant pressure on their opponents. More importantly, They adapted faster than their enemies could respond. When the hegemony forces tried to use their superior firepower to suppress human positions, the humans dispersed and attacked from new angles. When the aliens tried to match human mobility, they found themselves outmaneuvered by soldiers who seemed to think 3 moves ahead. Captain Rodriguez stood in what had been designated as the mayor's office of the simulated city, reviewing tactical reports. "Sergeant Williams, what's our casualty count?" "0 KIA, 3 wounded, sir. All 3 are back on duty." "Ammunition?" 70% remaining, sir." "Outstanding. What's the status on objectives?" "We've secured all primary targets and half the secondary ones. At current pace, we'll have complete area control by end of day 5. Rodriguez nodded and activated his communication system. "Able 6 to exercise control, requesting updated mission parameters. We've completed the assigned objectives ahead of schedule." In his command ship, Admiral Krektos stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans had accomplished in 5 days what was supposed to take 30. His elite shock troops, warriors who had dominated galactic conflicts for decades, had been systematically outfought by soldiers using primitive equipment. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the human commander is requesting new objectives. They've won." "Won?" Krektos felt his throat sacs deflate. "The exercise isn't scheduled to end for another 25 days. Sir, they control all strategic positions, have neutralized 60% of our forces, and have established complete dominance over the operational area. By any military standard, the exercise is over." Krektos activated the ship-to-surface communication array. "Human Commander, this is Admiral Krektos. You have performed admirably. The exercise is concluded." "Thank you, sir," came Rodriguez's reply. "Good training. Your people fought hard, but they seem to be holding back. If you want to run it again with live fire exercises, my troops are ready." The communication channel went silent. The idea of facing these humans with live weapons made the Admiral's combat instincts scream warnings. Later that day, as the human transports departed Zerion 7, Admiral Krektos filed his report with Hegemony Command. His conclusions were simple and terrifying. Human regular infantry outperformed elite galactic forces in every measurable category. Their tactical coordination, adaptability, and combat effectiveness exceeded anything in known space. If these were truly ordinary human soldiers, then humanity's actual elite forces represented a threat that the galaxy was not prepared to face. The report triggered emergency sessions in military commands across known space. Defense budgets were increased, training programs were overhauled, alliance treaties were reconsidered, and somewhere in human space, units with names like Delta Force, Navy SEALs, and Special Air Service continued their training, completely unaware that an entire galaxy was learning to fear what they might be capable of. Captain Rodriguez, meanwhile, filed his own report describing the exercise as good training and noting that his troops were ready for more challenging scenarios. The galaxy was not ready for what that might mean. Dr. Vexistar had built her career studying the military traditions of different species. As the galaxy's leading expert on xenobiological warfare patterns, she had analyzed the combat doctrines of over 200 different civilizations. She thought she understood how warrior cultures developed. Then she encountered humanity's military structure. Her research began 3 weeks after the Zerion 7 incident, when the Galactic Council commissioned a complete analysis of human military capabilities. What she found in the first week of study made her question everything she knew about warfare. Computer, display human military organizational chart. She commanded from her laboratory on the neutral research station of Kepler Prime. The holographic display showed a structure that seemed straightforward at first glance. At the bottom were units labeled infantry, marines, and regular army. Above them were various specialized divisions. At the top were small units with designations like Special Operations, Special Forces, and something called Tier 1 Operations. It looked normal. Every military had elite units. Then she began studying the selection processes. Computer, analyzed the success rates for human military advancement. The data that appeared made her double-check her translation software. According to the information provided by human diplomatic sources, their special forces had selection failure rates between 80 and 95%. Not failure rates for the final examination, failure rates for the entire process. That meant that out of every 100 soldiers who attempted to join human special forces, only 5 to 20 succeeded. "This can't be correct," she muttered, checking the data again. "Computer, what are the qualification requirements to attempt human special forces selection?" The answer made her sit down heavily. To even attempt selection, human soldiers had to already be among the top performers in their regular units. They needed perfect physical fitness scores, exemplary service records, and recommendations from multiple superior officers. In other words, the humans were taking their best regular soldiers, the ones who had already proven themselves superior to galactic elite forces, and then rejecting 90% of them as not good enough. Dr. Vexistar spent the next several days analyzing the training processes for human special forces. What she found defied everything she understood about military psychology. The humans didn't just train their special operations soldiers to be better fighters, they rebuilt them completely. Computer, translate and display the training summary for human Navy SEALs. The document that appeared described a process that bordered on torture. Candidates were subjected to physical and mental stress that would break most galactic species. They were deprived of sleep for days at a time, forced to exercise until their bodies failed, then required to continue exercising. The psychological conditioning was even more extreme. Candidates were placed in situations designed to trigger every survival instinct, then required to think clearly and make tactical decisions while their minds screamed at them to flee. Most disturbing of all, this was just the beginning. After the initial selection, human special forces underwent years of additional training in subjects that ranged from advanced combat techniques to psychological warfare to something the humans called unconventional operations. Dr. Vextar requested examples of these unconventional operations. The files she received made her request additional security clearances. Human special forces routinely operated behind enemy lines with no support, no backup, and no extraction plans. They infiltrated hostile organizations, eliminated high-value targets, and conducted reconnaissance in areas where regular forces couldn't survive. But the most chilling discovery came when she researched something called Tier 1 operations. These were special forces units that were considered elite even by special forces standards. The selection process for Tier 1 units started with soldiers who had already completed special forces training and proven themselves in combat. From this already exceptional pool, only a handful were selected. The humans had multiple Tier 1 units: Delta Force, Navy SEAL Team 6, Special Air Service, and others whose names were classified even in the diplomatic files. Dr. Vextar tried to find operational records for these units. Most were classified, but the few examples she could access made her question whether the reports were accurate. Single squads of Tier 1 operators had eliminated entire terrorist organizations. 4-man teams had rescued hostages from fortified compounds that should have required battalion-level assaults. Individual operators had spent months behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence and conducting operations that changed the course of entire conflicts. Computer, estimate the combat effectiveness of a human Tier 1 operator compared to standard galactic military forces. The computer worked for several minutes before displaying its analysis. According to every metric available, a single human Tier 1 operator represented a combat capability equivalent to a squad of galactic elite forces. Dr. Vextar stared at the data, trying to process its implications. If this was accurate, then humanity possessed thousands of soldiers who individually outperformed the best warriors other species could produce. But there was still one more level to investigate. Hidden in the deepest files of human military structure were references to units so classified that even their names were redacted. These were referred to only as Black Operations or Special Activities Division. The selection process for these units was so secret that Dr. Vextar couldn't find any details about it. What she did find were budget allocations that suggested these units received resources that exceeded the defense budgets of entire galactic civilizations. Her research was interrupted by a priority communication from the Galactic Council. Dr. Vextar, this is Chairman Vextal. We need your preliminary findings immediately. The situation has become urgent. What's happened, Chairman? We've received intelligence that a human military unit has been deployed to deal with the Krillian pirate situation in the Outer Rim. Our sources indicate it's one of their special operations teams. Dr. Vextar felt her research take on new urgency. How many soldiers? 8. 8 companies? 8 soldiers, Doctor. They're sending 8 individual operators to eliminate a pirate fleet that has been terrorizing the Outer Rim for 6 months. Dr. Vextar looked at her research data with new understanding. The pirates controlled a fortified asteroid base with over 1,000 fighters, multiple capital ships, and defensive systems that had repelled previous galactic task forces. And the humans were sending 8 soldiers. Chairman, based on my research, I believe the humans know exactly what they're doing. Explain. What we've been calling human regular forces are actually their lowest-tier combat units. Their special forces represent several levels of increasingly elite soldiers. If they're deploying a Tier 1 unit against the pirates... She paused, checking her data one more time. Chairman, I believe we're about to witness what human special operations are actually capable of, and based on everything I've learned, the pirate fleet doesn't stand a chance. That's impossible, Doctor. 8 soldiers cannot... Chairman, with respect, we've been wrong about human capabilities from the beginning. We assumed their regular soldiers were elite forces. We assumed their special operations were only marginally better. I believe we're about to discover that we've been underestimating them by several orders of magnitude. The communication ended, and Dr. Vextar continued her research with renewed focus. Within hours, the galaxy would have its answer about what human Tier 1 operators could actually accomplish. Her analysis suggested that the answer would fundamentally change how every species viewed warfare itself. In a classified facility on Earth, the 8 operators of SEAL Team 6 completed their final briefing and prepared for deployment. To them, it was a straightforward hostage rescue and facility neutralization mission, the kind of operation they trained for constantly. They had no idea that their mission would serve as humanity's formal introduction to the galaxy as a military superpower. The Krillian Empire had made 3 critical mistakes. First, they had assumed that humanity's recent entry into galactic politics made them weak and inexperienced. Second, they had believed that attacking a human mining colony on the Outer Rim would be seen as a minor border dispute not worth galactic attention. Third, they had convinced themselves that their reputation as the galaxy's most ruthless military force would protect them from retaliation. Supreme War Leader Krakthul reviewed the tactical situation from his command dreadnought as it approached the human colony of New Anchorage. His fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, 40 destroyers, and over 2,000 elite Krillian warriors. The human colony had perhaps 50 security guards and some mining equipment. It should have been a simple demonstration of Krillian superiority. Commence orbital bombardment, he commanded. Destroy their communication arrays first, then their power generators. We want them to know they're helpless before we land troops. The bombardment lasted exactly 14 minutes. When it was over, New Anchorage was burning, its communication systems destroyed, its defenses shattered. 2,000 Krillian warriors descended to the surface to complete the conquest. What war leader Krakthul didn't know was that a routine patrol had detected his fleet's approach vector. The patrol ship had transmitted a single burst transmission before being destroyed. That transmission reached Earth Fleet Command 12 hours later. Admiral Sarah Mitchell read the intelligence report twice before activating her secure communication system. The call connected directly to a facility that didn't officially exist, to speak with people who weren't officially there. This is Admiral Mitchell, Pacific Fleet Command. We have a Krillian attack on New Anchorage. Confirmed civilian. Casualties, colony overrun. Authorization requested for special activities response. Confirmed, Admiral. DevGru Team 6 is spinning up now. What's the tactical situation? 1 Krillian war fleet, approximately 50 vessels, 2,000 ground forces. They've established orbital control and are holding the colony population hostage. Understood. What's the rules of engagement? Admiral Mitchell looked at the casualty reports again. The Krillians had killed civilians, families, children, people who had never held weapons in their lives. No restrictions. Send them all. 8 hours later, the USS Nevada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the new anchorage system. The ship was small by galactic standards, designed for stealth rather than firepower. Its crew consisted of a pilot, a navigator, and 8 passengers who carried no official identification. Lieutenant Commander Jake "Reaper" Sullivan checked his equipment one final time as the Nevada approached the Krillian fleet. Around him, 7 other operators prepared their gear with the methodical precision that had made SEAL Team 6 legendary. 2 minutes to insertion, announced the pilot. Sullivan activated his communication system. Control, this is Trident 6. Beginning. Operation Neptune's Wrath, confirm mission parameters. Trident 6, you are authorized for full tactical operations. Primary objective, neutralize hostile forces and secure civilian population. Secondary objective, ensure this doesn't happen again. Understood, Control. Trident 6 out. The Nevada deployed 8 individual insertion pods from its stealth bay. The pods were designed to be invisible to sensors, allowing the team to infiltrate the Krillian fleet undetected. What happened over the next 12 hours would be reconstructed later from security footage, intercepted communications, and survivor testimony. The official report would be classified at the highest levels, but fragments would leak into intelligence circles and eventually become legend. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Krillian dreadnought's main reactor went offline. War leader Crackthul assumed it was a technical malfunction until 3 more ships reported similar problems. Then the communications array on his flagship was destroyed by an explosion that security systems couldn't explain. The blast came from inside the ship in a section that should have been secure. Find the saboteurs, Crackthul roared. Search every compartment. His warriors tried. They found nothing but shadows and death. Chief Petty Officer Maria Ghost Santos moved through the Krillian destroyer like smoke-made flesh. Her training had taught her to become invisible, to strike without warning, to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Behind her, the ship's life support systems failed one by one as she systematically disabled critical systems. Meanwhile, Senior Chief Hammer Rodriguez was turning the Krillian cruiser into a tomb. He moved from level to level, eliminating guards, disabling weapons, and leaving explosives that would detonate precisely when his teammates needed them. The Krillians had never faced anything like this. Their warriors were trained for direct combat, for honorable battle between opposing forces. They didn't know how to fight enemies who struck from the shadows and vanished before retaliation was possible. On the surface of New Anchorage, the situation was even worse for the occupying forces. Petty Officer First Class Phantom Chen had infiltrated the colony compound where the civilians were being held. To the Krillian guards, the compound was secure, surrounded by barriers patrolled by armed warriors, monitored by surveillance systems. To Chen, it was a target-rich environment. She moved through the compound like death itself, eliminating guards with silent precision. When the Krillians realized their perimeter was being breached, they found nothing but bodies and fear. The liberation of the civilian population took exactly 43 minutes. War leader Crackthul watched his fleet disintegrate. Around him, ships went dark one by one as their critical systems were destroyed from within. His warriors reported contact with invisible enemies who struck without warning and vanished without trace. Then his flagship's bridge lost power. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the command center as Crackthul drew his ceremonial blade. Whatever was hunting his fleet, it had come for him personally. The bridge doors opened silently, and Lieutenant Commander Sullivan stepped into the red-lit chamber. He was alone, carrying only his sidearm and a combat knife. Behind his tactical mask, his eyes were cold as winter. War leader Crackthul, Sullivan said in perfect Krillian, "You are responsible for the deaths of civilians under human protection." Crackthul raised his blade, a weapon that had taken hundreds of lives in honorable combat. "I am a warrior of the Krillian Empire. I do not surrender to cowards who hide in shadows." Sullivan drew his knife. The blade was smaller than Crackthul's ceremonial weapon, but it had been forged for killing, not ceremony. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, Sullivan activated his communication device. Control, this is Trident 6. Mission accomplished. Colony secured. Hostile forces neutralized. Casualties? 0 friendly. Total hostile. Confirmed, Trident 6. Well done. Extract when ready. The aftermath of what became known as the Xerion incident sent shockwaves throughout galactic civilization. A Krillian war fleet, one of the most powerful naval forces in known space, had been completely destroyed by 8 human soldiers. The political implications were immediate and far-reaching. The Hegemony Collective requested emergency meetings to discuss defense treaties with humanity. The Free Trade Alliance offered preferential trading status in exchange for security guarantees. Even the isolationist Zephyrian Republic sent diplomatic envoys to Earth. But the most significant change was psychological. Every military commander in the galaxy now understood that humanity possessed soldiers who operated beyond conventional military doctrine. The humans called them special forces, and they were capable of accomplishing missions that should have been impossible. Dr. Vextar completed her research with a final, chilling conclusion. Humanity had developed the most effective military force in galactic history, not through superior technology, but through the simple process of turning warfare into an art form, practiced by individuals who had transcended the normal limitations of their species. The galaxy began to sleep uneasily, knowing that somewhere in human space, warriors who thought nothing of impossible odds were training for missions that hadn't been imagined yet. Admiral Mitchell filed her report on Operation Neptune's Wrath with a single recommendation. Humanity should accept its role as the galaxy's primary military power, because ready or not, that role had been thrust upon them. And in a briefing room on Earth that didn't officially exist, 8 operators debriefed their mission and prepared for the next one. To them, the Xerion incident had been good training. They were ready for more challenging scenarios. The galaxy was not ready for what that might mean, but it would learn.